Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel for another Project Zomboid video. I've been asked about doing a few more guides lately and for some more specific parts of Zomboid, and I realized that there's a few things I haven't really looked at all that closely. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at all things base building. We're going to be looking at optimizing your base defenses as best you can, what kind of things you can build for yourself to make your base safer, and all of the things that you'll need to do so. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. I post videos on Project Zomboid every few days, including guides, tips, and gameplay. I also stream Project Zomboid on Twitch over at twitch.tv/MrAtomicDuck most weekends at 12 PM UK time. So drop the channel a follow and come by sometime if you have any questions. So let's get started with the meat of this video. Choosing a base is always a tough choice to make in Project Zomboid, and you might even go through multiple in a single playthrough if you last long enough. But in this video, we'll be looking at how to make any base the best you can possibly make it, whether it's a simple suburban house or a warehouse fortress you're building. This advice will hopefully transfer to all situations. First and foremost, your priority needs to be securing a safe sleep area. If you can, choose a room on the second floor. This is going to mean that zombies will not be able to enter through a window and will actually allow you to run a escape rope out of the window for a quick getaway if needs be. This can be crafted by shredding up some clothes. You'll need 2 escape ropes for a single second floor window. If there's anything in the general area that we can use to block the door, that helps too. Some items are going to need additional tools or carpentry skills to move, so for now just grab something like an armchair or a dressing table. This will buy you some extra time if the door breaks in the night, and gives the zombies enough pause for you to escape out of the window. All being well though, we won't need to worry about that, and we can move the item blocking the door when we wake up. If you can, I'd also recommend putting out some escape ropes from every top floor window of the building. This means that if the worst happens, every single room can offer you an escape from a bad situation. Next, we're going to want to look at fortifying the rest of the building. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. The easiest usually being to find ourselves a hammer, some nails, and some planks. We can get planks in a few ways, the best being to chop down some trees, but for that we're of course going to need an axe and a saw as well to make them into planks once we've got some logs. If you're unable to find the necessary supplies for that, you can get by with an axe by chopping down the doors of buildings nearby. After a few hits, they'll usually give you a plank or 2 per door, and if you're really lucky, zombies will have done this for you already in a lot of places. Scavenge some of these and you might be able to secure your building with nails and a hammer alone. Check garages, construction sites, hardware stores, or warehouses for these supplies that you're going to need. Now, this is the easiest way to barricade any doors or windows for your base, but it's not necessarily the best way. Each plank has 10 HP if you're choosing this method of barricading, so that's a total of 40 HP by the time you get 4 planks up. There's another way that will give you much better defenses without any knowledge needed at all. If you can find yourself a welding mask, a propane torch, and some metal sheets, a metal sheet can be welded to the window or door for 100 HP. These are going to hold up much longer than wooden barricades, but obviously these supplies might be a bit harder to find, especially at the start of your playthrough. Still, very much worth your time if you can find what you need. And again, you'll want to focus on construction sites and warehouses for this. I should also mention that it pays to read some books on carpentry and metalworking if you can, before doing any barricading associated to either skill. But if not, watch the First Day's Life and Living channel at midday to at least build your carpentry skill to level 1. So we've looked at barricading your windows and securing a location to the best of your ability with basic defenses. Now we can take a look at maximizing your space for both safety and efficiency. If you weren't aware already, crops can be trampled by zombies once they've been planted. Of course, we could spend the time building a fence or some walls around your crops to secure them and offering a safer farming environment in the process. But if you picked a base with a second floor, there's almost always an easier way to do this. We're going to potentially need a few tools for this one, so ideally you're going to want a saw, nails, a hammer, a sack, seeds, a trowel, and a sledgehammer. We might not need all of these, but I'll explain in a bit more detail now. If you can access a rooftop easily, fantastic, you won't need a sledgehammer. Otherwise, you can smash down a wall to gain access to a rooftop. If you don't have a clear roof where you can plant some crops, there's a really easy fix in the form of wooden floors. Smash down a wall as you would to go to a rooftop, then build yourself a wooden floor balcony. You won't need any supports for it to stay up. Think of it as building that home extension that you've always wanted, only we're going to cover it in dirt and grow some vegetables there, so it's probably not what you wanted. Next, we're going to gather some dirt with a trowel and a sack, then place it in rows 2 blocks apart if we can. If it's easier, build several small balconies. This is going to give you space to plant crops and keep them far away from each other so that disease won't spread. Of course, no zombies will be able to access your crops either, making for a safe spot for them to grow. If you can, finding a base location with an exterior fence is incredibly beneficial. It'll keep the zombies out for the most part, with only a few here and there causing you an issue. Make sure that if you do claim a compound with metal fences and gates, that you try to keep those gates up for as long as possible, and to check the gates when you drive into your base using a vehicle. Usually this is when you're going to be pulling zombies to the gates, if at all. Now, if you don't have access to a fence, there's a couple of things we can do to make your base more defensible. Namely, we're going to build walls. If you want to get started on a wall but have little to no carpentry skill, I'd recommend log walls. They can be built without any carpentry skill at all. You'll just need 4 logs per wall piece and 2 sheets. You'll of course need an axe to get those logs, but that's the only tool you're going to need. Log walls can take some serious punishment, having more HP than anything you can build in the early levels of carpentry. I'd only really use wooden walls for structural building, personally, unless you can get your carpentry past level 4. Even then, log walls gain additional health based on your carpentry skill, so there's not much in it anyway. Metal walls are of course an option, but honestly I don't think this is ever worth the time due to the amount of propane that is needed in order to get sufficient metal plates and to build the walls. Generally speaking, zombies will prefer to attack doorways or find openings in a wall rather than attacking the wall itself. This is something that, if desired, can be used to your advantage. Layering sandbags, building half fences in a staggered setup, or creating wooden windows can both slow the tide of an approaching zombie and present you with a fantastic opportunity to kick them while they're down for an instant kill. Usually not entirely necessary, but it can save you in a pinch if you manage to draw a horde back to your base. Think about where you put any doorways and how that's going to affect your base in an attack. Usually it's best to only have 1 or 2 entrances to defend. One big factor I wanted to visit in this guide was the use of objects to create defenses for your base. In some situations, these can make for some really good additional defenses when placed outside of barricaded windows or doorways to lengthen the time it will take for any zombies to break through. Personally, I like to use dumpsters for this wherever possible. They have a whole lot of HP and can help keep any gates, windows or doors well protected. They'll also easily cover the larger fence gates and can usually be found relatively easy too. You'll need a crowbar and level 2 carpentry to move these, so make sure to catch Woodcraft on Life and Living at midday to train up your carpentry a little. For one singular tile, you can use vending machines, which also have a reasonable amount of XP and make for good items to block windows or doors you don't use. Formerly, these would stop zombies from attacking at all, but as of a recent update, they will now attack these items and attempt to destroy them in order to access the entrances to your base. There's one last thing that I wanted to touch on before I wrap up this video, and the only reason I've left this until last is because I know some people consider this to be sort of a frowned upon strategy, and that's completely fine. It's up to you whether you want to utilize this one or not. But if you didn't know already, sledgehammers can be used to destroy staircases. With this strategy, you can run sheet ropes out of windows and access your base exclusively through the use of these sheet ropes. Zombies will not be able to access your base in any form, but can destroy those sheet ropes, so keep plenty of them handy for replacements. It can be a real easy way to keep your base safe without much effort at all. So that's it from me when it comes to base defense. I'll end this video by saying that although this can make your base feel impenetrable and incredibly cool looking for the most part, there's not much reason to strengthen your base to this degree in the game as it stands. In the future, I'd love to see the team behind Project Zomboid organize some sort of roaming horde mechanic where occasionally a challenging amount of Zeds will come across your base, but for now, this will help keep you safe in the night whilst your character sleeps and possibly help you defend your base for the helicopter event. I've also got a tips video out there right now on preparing your base for the long term, which I think will be helpful if you're looking for a more long-term survival tips video than this one. So I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video on the end screen. A huge thank you to all of my patrons for supporting me as always. You can find my Patreon page in the description if you want to get your name on these credits amongst a host of other benefits, and a very big thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.